the information that we're sharing tonight, we will end up posting this in the class of 2021 Google Classroom. So if there's anything that, if we go too fast, you certainly can reference back to those things. We'll have the chance for questions at the end. But if you do think of something and you want to type it in the chat, go ahead and do that, and then we'll circle back around to that towards the end. So if you want to go ahead and share our screen, Mr. Standridge. Mr. Standridge is our behind the scenes tech person here.
I'll let you guys know we also are recording this, and we'll post it on YouTube, our YouTube channel at the end. So if you missed something on that side too, you can pick it up on YouTube.
Oh, you had it. Gonna count it down, Mr. Standridge.
I wanna go to college. Seems like a sure bet, but I don't wanna spend my life paying off the debt. My parents can't afford it, and neither can I. But I heard about FAFSA, thought I'd give it a try. Didn't take long, I just filled out a form. I got some money quick, and I was moving in the dorms. I applied early, so I got more funds. I got 99 problems, but my debt ain't one. FAFSA is free, and there's no commitment, so it doesn't matter if I change my mind last minute. I can use the money to go to college or learn a trade. Education means a better job or I get paid. Take it from me, it's an opportunity. So to get the max cash, apply quickly. It's a simple little form and it doesn't take long. Click, cashpaymane.com. Take it from me, it's an opportunity. So to get the max cash, apply quickly. It's a simple little form and it doesn't take long. Click, cashpaymane.com.
All right, so you know that Miss Stifler and Angela and I, we would have done a great rap for you guys if we were actually at school tonight, but we're not, unfortunately. So anyway, these are, I already introduced myself. As far as those of you that are gonna, those of us that are sharing information tonight. So I'm Lori, like I said, school counselor. Angela, you wanna wave? So most of the students obviously hopefully know us, but if some of you parents haven't met us, Angela is our College and Career Center coordinator and librarian. And then Mrs. Stifler, our academic counselor, senior class advisor. We know everybody's missing her saying, test day, it's test day. So it's good to see you guys. And again, thanks for being here.
I can see it right now. They're really missing it. No, I won't.
Test day. Okay, wait. So we obviously have some goals for this evening as far as the information that we're sharing with you guys. And again, this is just kind of the beginning of this process. I think one of the things I want to say to students and parents is be patient with each other. Be patient with the transition that you guys are in right now. There's a lot that goes into the senior year. And then I would say, obviously, be extra special patient with each other because of, trying to do these things under complicated circumstances. And so it can feel like a lot of information. And so that's, you know, our goal is to, again, to give that information to you guys, not to overwhelm you, and recognize, like I said, that this is October 1st, and the college planning and the transition process for you guys is going to last out throughout the school year. And so even though there's a lot of things up front that we're going to be sharing with you guys, if you can just kind of stay on a steady course and do bits and pieces each, you know, each week, each month, it's much better than the stress that comes with procrastination and putting things off to the last minute. And so really want to encourage you guys to keep a steady pace on your planning for life after high school. It's kind of, I would call it, it's kind of like an activity. It's something that you need to be doing on a regular basis. Again, our goals for tonight is just that you guys will know how to start the financial aid process, and that you'll have a better understanding of the overall process as far as what happens with the college planning and the financial aid process, and how those two things kind of go together. And then also, just like I said, that you have a better understanding of what things you need to be doing these next few months to get yourself in position as best as possible for what you want to be doing after high school. So when we talk and we use the word college, we really want folks to understand that, you know, it's almost the phrase of like post-secondary school. So like, what are you going to do after high school? So we're really wanting everybody to understand that regardless of what your plans are for after high school, maybe you want to go to the Springfield College of Beauty. Maybe you want to go to LCC. Maybe you want to go to the University of Idaho. Maybe you're looking at joining an ROTC program through the military. So we use that phrase, but we would just want to make sure that everybody understands we're not talking about just going, you know, to someplace just straight to U of O or something like that. So there's a lot of resources out there, whether or not you want to go to a technical program or a four-year university or a four-year college. So when we use that word college, we really are wanting to say the broader picture of whatever it might be that you're doing after high school. So again, the financial aid process and you're applying for college, those things definitely go together. And so when, you know, if you haven't narrowed down where you want to be going next year, now is the time as far as kind of making some of those decisions, or at least narrowing down where you see yourself a year from now. And you know, so the main things, and if you haven't narrowed down where you want to apply to, starting by looking like, does it have the degree or the program that I want to go to? So, you know, you might have dreams of going to like San Diego or someplace that's warmer, but if they don't have the program that you need, then it's not going to make sense that you're pursuing that. So, you know, looking at, well, I think I might want to major in architecture, for example. U of O has a program, Oregon State does not. You know, so that's really the first most important piece, is does it offer what I'm interested in? And then after that, it's going to be more of a personal choice on location, size, the culture, and then affordability. So a lot of times people kind of look at affordability first. But again, with the financial aid process, you really should wait and kind of see. So are there programs, is there a school out there that you're interested in, the location, the size? I had a student that I worked with a few years ago that, I don't know, some of you guys may have gotten a lot of material from Eastern Washington University. They recruit a lot of Oregonians and they will send you a lot of information. And you've got to really decide, do I want to live in Eastern Washington? You know, so this young lady went up there and She didn't realize that most of the students that go there actually go home on the weekend. And, you know, the size was okay, but the culture was a little bit different, where she was like by herself a lot on the weekends, and she was really, it added to her feeling homesick. And so it sounded great, and it was like, oh, I'm going away to college, but really knowing kind of like, is this someplace that I'm going to be happy on the weekends? Do I want to be someplace where I do have the ability to drive home occasionally and see my family and stay connected with my family? So location can be big, size also, you know, what kind of experience do you want as far as, you know, big, huge university like the U of O versus little, well, now they're technically called Bushnell University, but Northwest Christian University now goes by Bushnell University, but that's like a fewer than 1,000 students. So size, smaller schools, you're going to have a little bit more of an intimate experience, that kind of thing. Culture, you know, again, do you want a big state school that has big sports and all kinds of different events going on, or are you more interested in a more intimate location? So as I mentioned, don't eliminate a college program based on tuition. So that, you know, we're going to encourage you guys, like, if you have a dream school, apply, see what happens, see what what financial aid offers you might get back, see what kind of grants and scholarships they have to offer, where, you know, what other resources they might have that might make it affordable for you. And so when I mentioned that this is like a months-long process, you're going to submit your FAFSA and you're going to apply to the schools that you're interested in, but it is going to be probably March or April before you get the information back about what those schools can offer you. And so if you've got someplace, you know, like I said, University of California at San Diego, or you dream of going, see what happens and see what they have to offer. Don't assume that, you know, same with private schools. Private schools have a lot of endowments and they have bigger grant programs. And so they might be more expensive, but because they have more resources, possibly with grants and things like that, it might end up being about the same as what you would have paid if you went to a public school. Most students do qualify for some kind of financial aid. And so again, that's where, you know, complete the process and get the information and make your decision based on that information, instead of just assuming that it's not going to be possible.
And Laura, can I interject a little bit? That I'm
Sure.
a product of that. When I was going to school, I looked at U of O and looked at some private schools, and the private schools had more scholarships. They got scholarship just for having a 3.5 GPA. And so by the time it was all said and done, you know, something I didn't even apply for, they gave me grants and scholarships, and it cost me essentially the same to go to a small private school as it did the U of O by the time it's said and done. So yeah, don't look at the sticker price right off the bat, because everybody's going to pay a little bit different price for their college experience.
And you went to Linfield, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Linfield in McMinnville. So if any of you guys are interested in that, you could always talk to Mr. Stanridge and get his perspective. So, all right, now I'm going to turn things over to Mrs. Stifler.
Okay, so October, which this is the perfect day, October 1st. This is the first day that FAFSA is open and that you can apply and get going in FAFSA. And so we're gonna tell you now what FAFSA is and what that looks like. So think of financial aid as a basket, if you will. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can get financial aid. One is scholarships and grants. So those are things that you don't have to pay back. You don't have to pay back the scholarships or grants that you get. Work study is another form of financial aid where you work on campus, and the money that you would make goes towards your tuition or books or whatever. So that's another way of financial aid that you don't have to pay back. And then the third form of financial aid, which is the least desirable, is that thing with the word loans after it, which means you do have to pay those back. And there are loans that are available to both you as a student, and then parents can also take out what are called parent loans for colleges. So those are the three different ways that we're looking at financial aid. And where you start with those, like to tell if you qualify for scholarships or work study or loans, you have to fill out what's called the FAFSA, which is the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And that link there that we don't necessarily have to click on right now, but that will take you to the FAFSA site to get going on that. But that you have to fill out for anything, even if you think that your parents make too much money and you won't qualify for financial aid, you still have to fill out the FAFSA before you can qualify for any kind of scholarship at this individual school. So that's what we're going to see a video about here next, I think. So this is our video about what is FAFSA.
So you want to go to college or career school. Maybe you started saving early. Maybe you'll discover some buried treasure, but more likely you'll need another plan. So if paying for college is going to fall on your shoulders, the U.S. Department of Education's Office of Federal Student Aid is the best place to turn for assistance. I bet you didn't know that we're the largest provider of grants, loans, and work-study funds, all of which are easy to apply for. And when it is time to apply for aid, head to your favorite spot to complete the Free Application for Federal Student Aid, or FAFSA. Each October, a new FAFSA is available for the next school year, and completing it is free when you go to the official website, fafsa.gov. Your selected colleges will use the information on your FAFSA to figure out how much aid you'll get, so make sure your info is accurate. But if you need to, you can go back and make some changes. If you get a grant or work-study job, congrats, you won't have to pay the money back. However, a federal loan is borrowed money, and you'll need to promise to repay it. Remember to borrow only what you need, because a federal student loan is a real loan. Just like with a car or home loan, it's important that you understand what you're agreeing to. Although college, financial aid, and the prospect of an instant noodle diet can be a little overwhelming, you'll be putting yourself on the path to success when you take the time to plan out your options and let the Office of Federal Student Aid help you along the way. If you have questions or need more information, please visit studentaid.gov.
Okay, so again, should you submit a FAFSA? Again, you absolutely need to. Like I said before, you don't want to do it because my parents make too much money. No, you have to do that because that is how the colleges are going to award your scholarships. You don't have your taxes done yet. That's fine. You can go back and revise. You do have to have your tax information, but you can go back and revise your FAFSA once that's done. Too hard to fill out. It's really, there's step-by-step instructions on their website that makes it pretty easy to follow. Your grades aren't good enough. FAFSA doesn't ask for your GPA. So they're just wanting your financial information to kind of justify where you fit with scholarships and grant and work study information. So everyone needs to fill out a FAFSA, no matter what. Even if you think you're not going to go to college, you need to fill that out. And here's how do I file. What do you do?
The Free Application for Federal Student Aid, or FAFSA, is the application for grants, loans, and work-study funds provided by the federal government. It is also used by many states and schools for their financial aid programs. For the fastest and easiest way to apply, visit our official website, fafsa.gov. The FAFSA is available in English and Spanish. As you fill it out online, you'll be able to automatically skip questions that don't pertain to you, check out your status immediately, and get online help. It takes most people less than 30 minutes to complete the application. You'll need a few things when you fill it out, so get ready by gathering your social security number, your permanent resident card if you have one, any W-2 forms or records of money earned for the previous year, and your tax records. Now, if you haven't already filed your taxes, you can fill out the FAFSA with estimated tax information, but you'll have to update your information later. And if you have filed your taxes, you may be able to import your information automatically from the IRS. If you have any questions about what information to gather, there is a complete list of documents that you will need at fafsa.gov. Before you begin the process of filling out the FAFSA, you should create a username and password called an FSA ID that will act as your electronic signature. You'll only need to create an FSA ID once, and you can use it to renew your FAFSA each year that you apply. Your parents will need an FSA ID too, if they have to provide any information. So now you're ready to begin filling out the FAFSA to apply for financial aid. There are 3 groups of questions that include personal information such as your name, address, and marital status, financial information such as your income, and any parent information that is required. If you get hung up or confused about a question, the Help and Hints box on the right-hand side of the application can help with each question as you move along. Also, look for the online chat feature under Help if you would like assistance from a knowledgeable agent. Because colleges and career schools use the FAFSA to provide financial aid, you can list up to 10 schools that you are interested in attending. You should list all of the schools that you are considering, even if you haven't been accepted or applied yet. If you have more than 10 schools in mind, you could submit your FAFSA with 10 schools and then add more later. When you finish filling out the FAFSA, use your FSA ID to sign the form. If you are required to submit parental information on your FAFSA, a parent will need to sign the application with his or her own FSA ID as well. If you have questions or need more information, please visit studentaid.gov.
Okay, so that is how you file your FAFSA. So avoiding some common errors when you're doing your FAFSA. Make sure that it doesn't cost you anything. Make sure you're going to that .gov site. I believe there is one that's .com, and they charge you to do that. You should not pay a fee at all to fill that out. So make sure you're doing the .gov. And then double check that your name, birth date, and your social security number are correct, and you put it in the right section of the FAFSA form. And then also make sure you're applying for 21-22 school year. Unless you plan on graduating early and attending school in January, and then you're going to do the 21. But for most of you, it's going to be the 21-22 school year. Make sure that's the one you're applying for. And file as close to October 1st as possible, because sometimes those funds are available the sooner that you apply. And then use your actual 2019 tax information. And there is a retrieval on the FAFSA site that if you filed electronically, you can automatically upload that information to FAFSA, which is kind of cool. And then always say yes to work study, that you will work on campus. Those are great jobs to have. So you should always say yes to work study, even though you may or may not qualify. And then the other thing to keep in mind that is if you are a male between the age of 18 and 25, you have to register with Selective Services. And you can do that when you are completing the FAFSA. And again, there's the FAFSA website there on how to apply, complete the form to get your aid, and it's there for you again. In the video, it talked about getting your FAFSA ID. Both, if you're a parent or a student, you both have to register to get a FAFSA ID because you are going to both need to put information in. And when you're logging in as a student, make sure you're logging in with the student's information and not your own. So you both are going to need to get a FAFSA ID. And you can get that ahead of time. Even if you're not ready to fill out FAFSA, you can log in and get that ID before that.
We have a question on that, FAFSA. If you have more than one child, I was trying to do it for Samuel too, but it said my email was already used because I did fill it out for Melanie.
Mm-hmm.
How does a person go about if they have 2 children?
I believe it's the same email, is it not, Lori and Angela?
It just kept saying my email is already used. It didn't like it. To use it for Samuel too, it just kept saying the email was already used for another account.
You should be able to use your same username and password though, so you shouldn't have to
both
do.
kids?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you don't have to
Okay.
create another. You don't have to create another ID. You should be able to
Okay.
do the same one.
Okay, well, I'll go through it again and probably be able to figure it out. I was just curious if you could use the same one for both kids.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks.
And so to create your FAFSA ID, it's, like I said, you're gonna just need your social security number and an email and or phone number. But again, students and parents need to each create their own because you're both gonna need a separate FAFSA ID.
When you fill out the FAFSA, you'll be asked several questions that will determine whether you are an independent or dependent student. This is an important distinction because if you're a dependent student, then you'll need to include your parents' financial information on your FAFSA. This means that your parents' financial information will be considered along with your information to determine your eligibility for federal student aid. So how do you figure out if you're an independent or dependent student? Generally, if you are a graduate student, on active duty in the U.S. Armed Forces, a veteran, are married, have children whom you support, or are 24 or older, then you are considered an independent student. If you don't meet any of these criteria, then you're likely considered a dependent student and will have to provide your parents' financial information when completing the FAFSA. If you have a different living situation, including divorced parents or living under the care of a grandparent or other relative, the online FAFSA will provide guidance to help you answer the parent questions. In other special circumstances, your status may not be as easy to determine, and you'll need guidance from the financial aid office at the college or career school you plan to attend. Some common questions that people often ask are, what if the FAFSA tells me I'm a dependent student, but my parents don't claim me on their taxes, or I've moved out of their house and am financially independent? While these situations do arise, they aren't part of the criteria for independent status on the FAFSA, so you would still be required to report your parents' financial information on the FAFSA. What if I'm considered a dependent student but have no contact with my parents or access to their information? There are other options available to you in these situations, so it is possible for a dependent student to submit the FAFSA without parental information. If you have indicated on your FAFSA that you cannot contact your parents or access their financial information, you'll need to speak to staff at the financial aid office at the college or career school you plan to attend. The financial aid staff will tell you what to do next. So what if my parents aren't going to help me pay for college and refuse to provide information from my FAFSA? If this is the case, the only federal aid you may be able to receive will be an unsubsidized loan, which is a federal student loan that begins accruing interest as soon as you receive your funds. To find out whether you can get the loan, fill out your FAFSA and then speak to the financial aid staff at the college or career school that you wish to attend. If you have any other questions regarding financial aid, your college or career school will be able to answer them for you, and, if appropriate, make a decision about your dependency status. Their decision is final and cannot be appealed to the U.S. Department of Education. No matter your dependency status, make sure to complete the FAFSA to find out what federal money you can get for college or career school. If you have questions or need more information, please visit studentaid.gov.
Okay, so then after you submit your FAFSA, what happens next?
So, you filled out the FAFSA. Now what? The information you submitted will be processed by the U.S. Department of Education's Office of Federal Student Aid, and the colleges or career schools you listed will be notified so they can begin their process of awarding aid. The great thing about filling out the FAFSA online is that you can check its processing status immediately. This comes in handy when you're thinking, I wonder if it went through. Within a few days of filling out the FAFSA, you'll get your Student Aid Report, or SAR. You'll hear that abbreviation again, so just remember, your SAR is your Student Aid Report. Basically, it summarizes all of the information you submitted on the FAFSA. You can access your SAR online at fafsa.gov using your FSA ID, which is your username and password. Check your SAR for any mistakes. Then make corrections if you need to, but only if you estimated your tax information or provided incorrect information the day you filled out the FAFSA. On your SAR, you'll see reference to your EFC, or expected family contribution. This number is used to determine your eligibility for federal student aid. It doesn't mean you actually have to contribute that amount. The financial aid office at each college or career school you list on your FAFSA will receive your information. Each office will then use your FAFSA information to determine how much aid you can get at that school. It's possible that your college or career school may require you to verify the information you submitted on your FAFSA. If that happens, your school will tell you what you need to do. Once you're accepted into a college or career school, you'll get an award letter from a school's financial aid office that explains the aid being offered to you. We'd recommend comparing award letters from multiple schools. That way you can make the best decision for your situation. If you have any questions about your financial aid offer, contact the school's financial aid office. If your aid offer includes a federal loan and you're a first-time borrower, there are a few more steps before you get your loan. You'll need to complete entrance counseling and sign the Master Promissory Note, or MPN, which is your agreement to pay back the loan. Your school will provide you with the necessary information. So how do you get your money? Well, usually your grants and loans will be applied to tuition, fees, and other charges on your student account first. Then any leftover money is paid to you. Work-study funds are earned throughout the term. Remember, filling out the FAFSA is not a one-time thing. You must complete it every year you attend school. If you have questions or need more information, please visit studentaid.gov.
Okay, and before I turn it over to Miss Dennis, that's the one thing I want to reiterate is once you get out of high school, you have to do the FAFSA every single year. And you're not going to have someone like Miss Noggle or Miss Dennis or myself telling you to do the FAFSA. You're just going to have to remember to do it. So please, 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 please remember it's not just one and done. It's all 4 years of college you're going to need to do it, or 2 years, or wherever you're going. So with that being said, don't forget to do your FAFSA. I'm going to turn it over to Miss Dennis.
Okay. Do you want to go back one more slide? Thank you. So with that said, when you create those login and password, the FSA ID, make sure you write it down because you do need to use that for all the next years that you're in college. Otherwise, you're going to get to your second or third year and remember that you don't know your password. So beyond filling out your FAFSA, there's a couple other grants that there are in Oregon. There's the Oregon Opportunity Grant. This you fill out at studentaid.gov. This particular grant is strictly financial need based. So it is for families that after you fill out your FAFSA, if your EFC, which is your expected family contribution, that's what the SAR is going to tell you, is for families that your EFC is 0. So that basically means you have a high financial need. Another big one for Oregon is the Oregon Promise Grant. So the Oregon Promise Grant is specifically for students that are planning on attending any Oregon community college. So it's not just Lane Community College. You can go to any community college. So you could go up to Salem, you could go to Lynn Benton and Albany. So you do have to have, for the Oregon Promise, you need to have a minimum cumulative GPA of 2.5. So if you don't have that right now, you can work to increase your GPA before you graduate. The Oregon Promise covers most tuition from a community college. It doesn't necessarily cover all of it. So their requirements is they only pay up to 12 credits per term. So if you're taking more than 12 credits a term, you'll be responsible for the difference, any credits you're taking over that. You can go half-time. So you can go 6 credits and still receive Oregon Promise, but you're just going to receive the portion for those 6 credits. So you have to take a minimum of 6 credits to qualify, and then they just pay up to the 12 credits. So to qualify for the Oregon Promise Grant, you do need to fill out the application, have the cumulative GPA of 2.5, and then have a, currently, this year was the first year actually that they didn't award it to everybody who applied. So some people don't apply for it because they think it's financial based. And in the past, it has not been. So they've been able to award it to everybody who's applied. This last year, because of just financial things and everything that hit, was the first year that they did put an expected family contribution on it of $18,000. So even if your EFC is above that, I still recommend applying for the Oregon Promise because every year that changes. So it could go back to not having a limit. All of these grants, they're free to apply for. You don't lose anything if you apply for them, and they don't cost you anything. So there's no reason not to apply for them. And then we are still going to try to do financial or college application week in November, which is normally when we're on campus, we go into your class and we help you for a week. That's usually when you see all the seniors walking around with donuts and all that fun stuff that we unfortunately might not get to do this year, but we still will help you guys apply for Oregon Promise. We're going to do it virtually somehow, so we will still be here to help you guys. Okay, so what else should you be aware of? So one of the biggest things, if you are a senior right now, you should be creating your own personal professional email. So that means it shouldn't be like Big Daddy 21. It should be something that when you're reiterating it to, you know, a job or a college, it sounds professional. And you don't want to use your school email. So don't use your Creswell email because when you graduate, you won't have access to that. So if that's what you gave to FAFSA or colleges to contact you, they're going to be sending you emails and you're not going to get them. So you want to make sure that you have a professional email and that you're checking it regularly once you start giving it out. Because that is how these colleges that you apply for, that's how they're going to contact you. That's how the federal financial aid is going to contact you. So you want to make sure you get one of those set up. If you don't know what you want to do after high school, you still want to do FAFSA now. And I recommend if money was not a factor, and where would you go to school? So last year I had a student that was only applying for LCC, and the deadline of U of O was coming that day. And I, went in and talked to him and his parents and was like, hey, if money wasn't a factor, where would you go? Well, he wanted to go to U of O. They were only going to file for Lane because that's what they thought they could afford. Well, he started U of O this last Tuesday because he got almost a full ride to U of O. So my recommendation is to apply for any schools that you are thinking about, because you never know what offer they're going to give you. You may think that that college is out of reach, but once they send you your financial aid packet and your offer, you may choose a different school because they're willing to give you more money. Let's see, we covered some of that. So everybody should apply for Lane, mainly because you don't know what's going to happen. Since you're applying now or by November, December, when you look at next September when you're going to start, all different kind of things could come up. You may change your mind what you want to do. You may not know what you want to do right now. So Lane is always a good one to apply for just as a backup. Sometimes you think you want to go to an out-of-state university and don't realize that out-of-state universities charge us, anybody coming from Oregon, a substantially more amount of money. So Lane is a great school to apply for backup. You should set a goal for yourself that by Thanksgiving, you've filled out your FAFSA, you have filed for your grants, and that you have narrowed down or chosen the school that you think you want to go to, and at least applied for them. You're not going to choose your school until you get those financial aid packets. Unfortunately, you're not going to get those until about March or April. And that's when you're probably going to choose your final school that you're going to go to. And then, oh, so we're good. We can go to the next slide. So once you've applied for FAFSA and you've applied for grants, the next thing that you want to look into are scholarships. So pretty much any university that you're choosing to go to or community college, they have their own foundation of scholarships. So once you choose your school and you've been accepted, definitely go there and apply for scholarships. They're usually, you fill out one application and it's basically applying you for many scholarships. The other place you can go is the high school's website. And under college and career, and there's a whole bunch of scholarships there. So definitely once you do your FAFSA and your grants, scholarships are the next thing you want to focus on, because that's also going to be free money that you don't have to pay back. So college application week. So during college application week, we are going to help you apply for the Oregon Promise. We're going to help you apply for Lane Community College and any other schools that you have of interest. And then we're going to help you utilize and show you kind of how to help you find scholarships that you can apply for. And then we are here to help you, even though you don't get to see us every day. We're all working from home, we're working from school. We all have, you know, our emails, our phone. Reach out to us. That's what we're here for. We want to help you. If you're filling out your FAFSA and you realize you need help or you have a question, shoot us an email. I think we're all pretty quick to respond, and we will help you any way that we can. So the other thing is familiarize yourself with OSAC. OSAC is another foundation where they have tons of scholarships. I think there's like 600 scholarships in there. And basically you fill out a questionnaire and it will narrow down those scholarships based on where you live, what you're going to school for, and it will populate scholarships that you qualify for. And you get to fill out like one scholarship application and it qualifies you for whatever scholarships you qualify for. So I know you guys have tons of Google Classrooms. You get lots of emails. Definitely this year, pay attention to the class of 2021 Google Classroom. Anytime we have college visits, which will be virtual this year, we're going to remind you in there. We'll remind you of deadlines. So just pay close attention to that because we're going to help you so you guys don't miss anything. This is a good time to start contacting teachers, any neighbors, people you've worked for. A lot of scholarships, even colleges, require for you to submit a recommendation letter. So when you're asking for a recommendation letter, you want to make sure it's pretty generic, that they're just kind of recommending you as far as, you know, academics and whether it's, you know, a recommendation letter for college or for scholarships, but this is a good time to start getting those because they are required. You can use them multiple times. And give whoever you're asking, you don't want to wait till a deadline is due. If you hit us up and you're like, hey, can I get a recommendation letter? I need it tomorrow because that's the deadline for the scholarship. We're probably not going to do it because we don't have time to do it. And we want to definitely make sure that we are thinking about you and making a good recommendation letter and not rushing through it to try to get it to you. So the College and Career website, that is on the high school's website. There's a little header up there that has the College and Career website. Tons of information on there. It talks about, you know, military and scholarships and colleges and FAFSA, and there's links for all that stuff. So it's really kind of a one hub with a lot of information, so you guys can go to one place instead of having to search, you know, Google searches and stuff to find things. They're all safe websites that we send you to, nothing that's going to charge you. You can't accidentally go to the wrong place. Definitely reach out to me. So I'm going to make a correction right here if you guys are looking. So my phone number on here is 541-895-6038. My phone is linked also to my cell phone, so even if I'm not in the office, I can still get it, as well as my email. So definitely hit me up if you have any questions. Another thing you can do is sign up for Remind. It's another way for us to remind you or to send you notifications. They come via usually text or email, depending on how you have it set up. And we'll just, again, remind you of deadlines and when we have college presentations. So it's just another way for us to remind you guys. Okay. So next week is the PNACAC College Fair. So usually this is a big college fair that's held at U of O. There's tons of tables and we walk around and you can talk to pretty much any colleges in the Pacific Northwest that you would be interested in going to. But because of the state of the world right now, like everybody else, they are not allowed to hold that fair. So they're doing it a little different this year. So it's going to be kind of a week-long virtual fair. So you can still log on. This is the information. This is where you can log on to. And every day next week, they kind of have some things happening. So there's over 100 colleges that will be present. So definitely if you are considering a college, I recommend logging on to here. If you don't know where you want to go to college.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Oh, sorry, my Siri's trying to talk to me. So you also, you know, if you don't know what college you want to go to, it's a great place to go reach out, talk to colleges. They'll answer questions for you. You know, they'll give you recommendations. So it's definitely, we love going to this fair. So I'm curious to see how it will be virtually. But I'm sure you're still going to get the same information. You might get a lot more one-on-one with those college advisors. Okay, beyond the PNACAC, which is the Pacific Northwest Fair, there's also the National Association of College Admissions. So versus it just being the Pacific Northwest, this one has all national colleges. So that one isn't this coming week, it's the following week. So if you're looking at going to college not in the Pacific Northwest and maybe you want to go over to the East Coast, this would be your opportunity to contact or to connect with those college advisors and get information from their colleges. Another great resource, especially while we're all home and working virtually and you can't do a lot of job shadows and stuff like that, Elevate Lane County is a great organization out of Eugene, and they used to do a lot of hands-on tours that we got to go on. They're also switching to virtual, so they have Manufacturing Mondays. So if you're interested in the manufacturing, any manufacturing careers. They have great tours that they're doing on Monday that are virtual. They're as interactive as you can be with being online. Tuesdays, they do tours and then also live Q&A. And then they have working Wednesdays, which are also live webinars, and those are from 2 to 3. So you can go to Elevate Lane County and look at their calendar and see if there's any industry tours that they're going on that you would be interested in. Another great resource is the U of L SAIL program. They have college and career mini shops. They have college student experts that are there to ask questions. One of the huge things that they're doing is college and scholarship essay assistance. So they will help you writing your scholarship essays. They will edit them. When you're applying for some of these scholarships, they can be pretty competitive. So you want to make sure what you're submitting, you've put a lot of thought into, you've had 2 to 3 people read over it and edit it, and tell people, like, when you're editing this, tear it apart. If you're not rewriting it once or twice, you probably haven't put enough effort into it. And then they also have weekly U of O faculty presentations. So one other resource is Oregon Goes to College. That one also has all kinds of scholarships and just more resources that are just going to help you through this year and help get you help and scholarships and that free money that you don't have to pay back. Okay, so one of the big questions that a lot of people ask is about the SAT or ACT. So right now, there isn't anywhere in our area that you can go take the SAT because it has to be in person. So most colleges, I've talked to most colleges in our area, and they are not requiring you to take an SAT or submit SAT scores to be admitted to colleges. Really, the only time that that's going to come into play right now is if for some reason it's borderline whether or not they would admit you, then they are looking at SAT scores to make that final decision. But a lot of things that they said that would overlook that is when you're filling out your application for admission is just telling them about you. So if there's a reason that you had a low score on a low grade in a class, letting them know why, what happened. You know, maybe it's because we got COVID and, you know, you couldn't do it or you were affected by the wildfires. So just as much information in those applications that you can give them is going to be helpful. So all universities right now are very aware of what's going on, and they know it's hard to get to those testing sites. There are testing sites out there. It just depends on how far you want to drive to be able to take the test. Okay. So if you guys have a question, feel free definitely to email us. If anybody has a question now, you can type it in the chat and we will try to answer it. And if you're not comfortable doing that, definitely email either any 3 of us, and we can answer that question for you, or call us, and we're happy to answer any questions. Or if you start filling out those applications and you have questions, definitely reach out to us and we can help you in any way that we can.
I thought of one thing while you were talking, Angela, and I don't know, Mrs. Stifler, if you want to talk at all about how kids can request transcripts. And I would emphasize again, just like with the letters of recommendation, of making sure that you are making that request in a timely fashion.
Yeah, for transcripts, all that you need to do is just email me, and I can either give that to you electronically. A lot of the schools want it in a sealed envelope, so in that case, you may have to either pick it up at the office, or I could mail those to you, but definitely shoot me an email when you need those.
So one other thing that some schools are going to also is called self-reporting. So you self-report your grades and scores, and then they don't necessarily need a transcript until your final transcript after you have graduated high school. So that is one thing also that you will have to do, is some self-reporting.
And then to answer, Hannah, your question about SAT scores and will they affect their chance of scholarships, there are certain scholarships that they are going to ask for SAT scores. So that really depends on the particular scholarship in general. But there could be some out there that they are going to require SAT scores.
Well, and I think that kind of information, as we get more specifics, we will definitely let you guys know. I think there's some schools that are still trying to figure that out because they know how difficult it is for people to be able to have the opportunity to take the test. So when we do get more specific information, we'll definitely share. And I think I would encourage you guys to reach out to those admissions offices. Like, so if there is some place specific that you have in mind, reach out to them and ask them more specifically as well. The other thing I was going to mention is, because you hear the word loan and it's kind of like, well, how is this federal student aid? And so they mentioned the unsubsidized loan. There is a subsidized loan. And so again, in relation to applying now and applying as quickly in October as you can, is that those subsidized loans, those are limited. And so that's where you're not going to start accumulating interest. And so again, some of you guys have maybe done a car loan. Parents definitely have had loans. And, you know, usually you start accumulating interest right away. So the subsidized loans, that's where it comes in, and it's federal aid, because you're not going to start accumulating interest on subsidized loans versus unsubsidized. So again, the sooner that you can apply and get your application in, the better opportunity that you're going to have for some of those things. So, and then lastly, I would say, just a kind of a reminder, is that we will be posting this up in the class of 2021 Google Classroom. There's also a checklist that we're going to include. And so be looking for those things in the, you know, tomorrow, basically. The question was about the Panacat College Fair. That should be there already. Mrs. Stifler posted that a couple of weeks ago. And so if you scroll down in the stream in the class of 2021 Google Classroom, it should be there.
Should also be on our website.
Correct. And right now it's on our front page too as well. So if you click on one of them, it says, I forget the title, but it's on the website too.
Awesome.
All right. Well, I see names out there. I'm like, I miss you people. I'd love to see your faces. Anybody else have any other questions? All righty. Well, call us, email us. Please, please, please. We want to be able to, again, help you guys through this process.
One
Anything
last
else?
question in the chat about SAT locations. Have you guys heard anything from any Oregon locations anytime soon?
I believe there's some up in Portland. I will check their website and get back with you, Elizabeth. I will check that and email you tomorrow.
The last we heard, there were 6, but I'm not even sure where those 6 are.
And that's in all of Oregon. and
Yeah.
they fill up really fast.
Oh, Amanda just said that she scheduled hers in Corvallis in December.
And Isaac has registered, so.
All right. Go Bulldogs.
Woo!
All right, thanks you guys. Anybody else? Any other questions? No.